Wuhan, Hubei province. When the novel coronavirus hit Wuhan, it was as if someone had pressed the city's pause button. But even as normal life was put on hold, something remarkable was unfolding. In 10 days, a brand new hospital was built. Once again, China's speed amazed the world. It was a historic achievement, one that could have only been done through hard work, dedication, wisdom, expertise, and experience. Some people have even described it as miraculous. It was just before Spring Festival when Wuhan ordered the construction of a special hospital for coronavirus patients.
这个项目我们是1月23号的，就是当时听到这个一些消息，可能要建这个医院，希望中央3局啊，这个投入到这个疫情防控的一些建设当中。
How the project was to be organized became the Bureau's first problem. Its entire workforce was scattered across the country. They were spending the holiday with their families. Coupled with the impact of the epidemic, it was difficult for them to reassemble within a short period of time.
人从哪里来？工人，火神山就要12000多工人，这工人从哪里来？然后进来了以后怎么吃？ 怎么住，然后在武汉地区有限的这个力量怎么样重新组合，这是很难的事情。
Deploying the workforce was far from being the only problem. Equipment, construction materials, and an energy supply were just some of the other resources that had to be urgently secured. There was also the matter of finding drugs and essential supplies for the new hospital. There was no time to waste. It was a race against the virus. The sooner Huoshenshan Hospital was up and running, the sooner it would be treating the most severely ill patients. And the pressure on the overwhelmed Wuhan hospital system would be eased. Building Huoshenshan Hospital was paramount. The central enterprise builders were confronted with an endless stream of challenges. Within hours of the order being given, the China Construction 3rd Engineering Bureau went into action. Work at 5 existing construction sites in Wuhan was halted. The 1,400 workers there were transferred to the Huoshenshan Hospital project.
你不能按照平时的一般机制来处理，就是从中央3局这个角度啊，首先你有的能够动的全都动起来，一刻都不能停。所以当时当夜能够进场的管理人员，能够进场的机械设备。 能够进场的相关的物资全部都到位。那天用4个小时的时间，凭证场地5万方，抢了一个主动。
Wuhan's plight was by this time giving rise to enormous concern across China. Up and down the country, people came forward to offer their support for the hospital project. Construction workers in the nearby town and villages offered to come and help. They were soon followed by volunteers in every corner of the country.
大年29晚上接到通知之后就往这边赶。
我们接到通知的时候就起床，8点多钟起床，后来一直等到下午3、4点钟的时候，人着急，心里面急得不得了，1、2个小时就打一次电话，问到底怎么来不来得了。 这大道理我们农民工嘛也说不来，反正因为国家有难嘛，总会是尽自己的一份力量嘛。
大年29的晚上嘛，然后大概晚上10点多钟，我们生产领导和我们说，我们有没有志愿报名的，我就志愿报名过来。
昨天下午开了7大会，好多同事都哭了，倒不是觉得辛苦，这时间真的是特别的紧张。
Huoshenshan Hospital's floor area of almost 34,000 square meters has 1,000 beds. Its facilities would include an intensive care unit, a critical care unit, and general wards. However, the design also had to take into account its specialist role in isolating coronavirus patients. The planners were given just 24 hours to come up with a final blueprint without any design error. This was another arduous task, with tremendous odds due to the time constraints. The man who would be instrumental was Wang Shichu, chief architect of Xiaotangshan Hospital, which was built in Beijing 17 years before to treat SARS patients. Xiaotangshan Hospital was built as an emergency hospital to respond to the 2003 SARS epidemic. With an impressive total floor area of 25,000 square meters and a capacity of 1,000 beds, it was the largest infectious disease control facility in the world at the time of its completion. During the 2003 SARS epidemic, it treated 680 patients. 672 of them recovered. None of its 1,383 staff was infected. World Health Organization experts describe it as a miracle in world medical history.
在那知道就是当天下午，就是正好是武汉，建设局发了一个文，就是希望我们提供小汤山的图纸。他们提问题，我们就及时给他反馈。这样就是因为不在一起嘛，他们兄弟单位，我们把我们所知道的就告诉他们。
Specialist infectious disease hospitals generally adopt a fishbone layout, based on the design principle of 3 zones and 2 passages. The middle axis is the non-contamination zone. Between it and the ward units are the semi-contamination zones, where the medical staff do most of their work. The wards are the contamination zones.
因为他们的布置的模式基本上就是用我们小汤山演，你看小汤山、雷神山，你从图片上看也是那种网个，就是一句故事的中间的一个通道，这个通道就是医务人员的通道。就是这个基本的模式是一样的。
Medical staff, after dressing in protective clothing and twice undergoing disinfection, can reach the wards from their living area via the staff passage. They are disinfected again before they come out. The wardroom passage is completely separate from the staff passage in order to protect medical staff from infection. From the outset of the project, it was decided that Huoshanshan Hospital would be an improved version of the similar facility built 17 years earlier. During the design process, the experience of the people who had built and operated Xiaotangshan Hospital was carefully referenced. Best practices were included in the facility. Despite the number of experts and specialists working on the design, it took just 70 minutes to deliver the blueprint. Many challenges still lay ahead. Constructing the hospital was just one of the major challenges. The next challenge was furnishing it. The hospital would be unable to function properly unless it was fully equipped and supplied. It was particularly important to secure enough medical suits for the staff.
使全球范围内医疗防护用品短缺。
我们的防护服、我们眼镜、N95口罩，这些还仍然有缺口。
On a daily basis, Wuhan's health workers needed 60,000 protective suits, 120,000 surgical masks, and more than 20,000 medical goggles. However, fewer than half of these numbers could be supplied, and the shortfall was getting bigger.
1月29号开的第3次视频会，就是当天就下达了全面转产的动员令，然后紧接着这个第2天，我们就策划签订军令状，限期完成什么目标，什么时间节点，达到一个什么样阶段性的任务。
The order had been given, and the response was positive, but it would not be possible to operate without protective gear. Little could be done without the necessary raw materials and manufacturing facilities.
转产的初期呢，原料非常稀缺，因为全国范围内都缺原料。因为这段时间，交通不便，设备奇缺，不是我们一家奇缺，因为这个压哨机呢是列入了国家工信部统一调拨的范围。
Rising to the occasion, The country's full industrial might was mobilized. Resources were secured, and the specialist manufacturing enterprises stepped up production to meet the challenge. To aid the effort, other factories repurposed materials, adjusted their production lines, and began turning out what the hospital needed.
仅仅用了4天，就落实了这个标准的消化，这个原材料采购，包括我们资质的申请流程，以及这个设备的准备到试制、投产，这个时间应该是非常短暂。
Factories across the country were soon producing a steady stream of protective suits, surgical masks, and medical goggles. It was as if the start button had been pressed on a giant machine, unleashing a massive and sustained bursts of energy. If the new hospital was to function, it would need electricity. A special team was formed from among the 10,000 construction workers. It was assigned to provide the power needed during the construction itself and afterwards when the hospital was operating.
我们的电力施工是1月31号送电，在这之前，医院的 ICU、1级楼、供氧设备，包括病房的一些设备都需要提前进行调试，所以我们的电力必须在保证这些设备进去之前完成。
The urgency of the situation meant that normal procedures couldn't be followed. There was simply no time to lose. Usually, the power supply would be secured first, but because of the urgency of the situation, both tasks had to be done simultaneously. The power workers adhered to a simple principle that wherever construction went, electricity would immediately follow.
现变化比较大，有我们施工现场的变化，有路径变化的，有复合临时调整的，有现场条件制约无法施工的，这个时候要我们随时进行方案的调整，施工工序的调整，包括我们的物资重新的调整。总体来说就是能做一点抢着做一点，能做多少做多少，能往前走一步，我们就尽量往前多走一点。
For 5 days, they worked round the clock. By January the 31st, they had installed 4 ring main units, 24 transformers, and 8 kilometers of cables at the Huashenshan site. The project was now being supplied with all the electricity it needed. Light meant hope. In just 5 days, this former wasteland became brightly lit. But despite all their efforts, time was still against them.
从技术层面上来讲呢，这个火神山医院呢，它是一个高等级、高标准的传染病医院。你不要看它是，这个厢房做成的，但是它里面的医疗的技术等级可高，难度呢，它远远呢，它的要高于一般的3甲医院。
The deadline for completing the hospital was 10 days. To achieve this, only one solution was possible: prefabrication. In prefabrication, the different parts and components of the buildings would be manufactured at factories. They would then be delivered by trucks and finally assembled at the construction site.
这个时候的技术的运用啊，对缩短这个工期，对按时这个交付，对保证质量至关重要。所以我们充分利用这个闭蒙技术和张培式建造我们这个方面的技术优势，确保各种工序能够穿插顺利的展开， 医院的建成呢，建成就等于就交付，交付就会使用。
As a prefabricated structure, it could be erected quickly. Unfortunately, the drawback to this was that it could only be built 2 stories high. This in turn meant that the construction area needed to be larger in order to accommodate the facilities.
它这个现场啊，相当于这个1万多人要在现场走直，投放的这个高差啊，低的高的地方有的接近10米，投放要挖，有的就地要填，有的要运出去，没有任何就是一条硬化的，但是有缺陷的路，那个车了没办法让开。我的现场经历啊，我感到这个现在走这难度非常之大。投放施工，投放就最怕下雨，恰恰连下4天雨，就开始要命的4天，它就是下雨期间，每一家都在抢，都不让，不让是因为没办法让啊。
In such challenging conditions, it is imperative that managing the huge workforce requires a strict and effective organization. It was vital that the various teams and the individuals within them were all pulling together.
就这个里面呢，就是秉承设计和领域的细分，这种高度的这个协调统一的配合，这个呢就是发挥总指挥部和分指挥部的这个功能呢，就是把这个应急的这个体系把它建立起来、启动起来，然后相关的部门和2级单位的骨干、董事长、党委书记、总经理全都就位。平时指挥千军万马，这个时候只是当工区的负责人。
The phases site leveling and backfilling was completed in 3 days. The amount of earth that was removed could have filled 57 swimming pools, and the total area leveled, 50,000 square meters, was equivalent to 7 football pitches. With the deadline looming, the basic outline of the hospital was emerging. The shell of the facility was taking shape. A final push was now needed to complete the basic structure. They were well into the home stretch, but time was running out. The workers had just 36 hours to complete the ICU wards and operating theaters. Compared to the frantic activity of the early days, the construction site was now more orderly. A supply chain had been established to provide the facilities and equipment the medical staff would need to get the hospital up and running right away. Everyone had their assigned tasks. The advantages of a prefab building were apparent. Under the assurance of skilled workers and reasonable planning, the pace of constructing the prefab building met the tight timing requirement. By February the 1st, the 10,000 plus workers had been toiling without let up for 9 straight days. They continued their work with relentless speed. The intensive care unit was completed in 21 hours. 3 hours later, the operating theater was ready. But despite all efforts, there was no time to relax. One very important issue still needed to be addressed before the green light could be given: the hospital's environmental impact. Huashanshan Hospital was to take in hundreds of coronavirus patients from other hospitals in Wuhan. The safety of the patients and medical staff during the transfer was paramount. A vital concern was the treatment of the daily medical waste produced by the hospital, which was a highly dangerous potential source of infection. The battle was at its critical phase. Every entry and exit had to be perfectly safe. The medical waste from Huashanshan Hospital would be processed at the Chanshijian Medical Waste Disposal Center. Strict protocols for disinfection and sterilization were observed. The medical wastes were unloaded for further treatment. After being transferred to the disposal center, the waste would be disinfected with high-temperature steam. Then it would be either incinerated or buried. Any waste gas and water produced in this process would also be treated using specialist equipment. In the cities of Chongqing and Nanchang, Vehicle manufacturers rallied to support Wuhan by stepping up the production of special ambulances. The ambulances are designed so that negative air pressure is maintained inside, encouraging a constant flow of fresh air from outside to help the patients breathe. Through an ingenious system, a suction device near the patient's head instantly pumps the air he or she has exhaled into the vehicle's filtration and disinfection system. Once rendered harmless, it is emitted out of the vehicle. Personnel is also taken care of to ensure that the medical staff can breathe safely. Clean air enters from above and is discharged beneath the vehicle. The compartmentalized design and protective equipment provide multiple guarantees for the safety of those both inside and outside the vehicle. A quick rollout was a priority. It is the day before Spring Festival Eve. Despite the short notice given, production of the special ambulances were already being stepped up. More than 10 a day were rolling off the production line and heading directly to the aid of Wuhan. Back at the Huashen Hospital site, a final push was underway to complete the project's technical infrastructure. It would normally take at least 15 days to fully equip the new hospital. Cutting-edge advancements would be needed to hurdle this obstacle. So that the urgent demands of Huashen Hospital can be met, the experts turned to cloud technology.
相当于是我这些采购的流程，包括我上架这些流程，我都已经具备环境。你只要有需求来了，我们评估方案，做方案规划之后，这个东西就直接可以，这个整体的方案就可以直接落地，直接在云上落地，而且这资源是随需随开，就是你来了之后，你就直接可以开。比方说我要100台服务器，那我就直接开100台服务器就完了，不像我们要传统采购，我要去采购100台服务器，然后我还去加电源、去调试系统。
Cloud resources would be provided by the country's major telecoms operators. The hospital's core information systems would be given support, including computing and storage capabilities for its imaging and transmission systems. Cloud and 5G technology also facilitates Huashen Hospital's telemedicine capabilities. Via a video link, an expert thousands of miles away could assess a patient and provide a diagnosis. The hospital's own doctors could share their first-hand experience of treating the novel coronavirus with their colleagues across the country to support clinical diagnosis, the formation of virus prevention policies, and the development of vaccines and medicines. AI technology was also used in Huashen Hospital. Technology such as deep learning algorithms used to carry out lung CT image segmentation and automatically generating reports for doctors was applied throughout the entire treatment process. From diagnosis to automated reporting, Huashen Hospital took just 6 days to achieve all these. In view of the vital role of the information system, ensuring its reliability was a priority.
这个信息系统的安全保护等级还是比较高的。而且这个一旦业务中断，或者数据泄露，或者这个患者的生命啊，这些安全都有影响。所以这个整个公司对这个快速上云的同时，领导也强调了必须保证这个医院安全稳定的运行。
Backbone Network, IDC, Cloud Resource Pooling and Virtual Network. 4 protective mechanisms offered layers of protection for the hospital's information system. The construction of Huashen Hospital may well be the project that was supervised by the most number of people in world history. Over 100 million people, via cloud technology and 5G, participated in the birthing of this super hospital. In homes across the country, people had closely followed the course of the hospital's construction. They have read updates, seen news reports, and watched live streams charting the progress of the project. Being the focus of nationwide attention was a source of encouragement for the frontline workers. But they were not the only heroes. Behind the scenes, millions of other people made their own contribution to Huashen Hospital. There were the cooks who provided 3 meals a day for the frontline construction workers. There were the technicians who ensured the supply of water, electricity, and fuel. There were the factory workers who produced the reagents and drugs needed by the hospital. There were the pilots and crew who flew in medical staff and supplies. There were the truck drivers who took to empty roads to bring in supplies from all over the country. Doctors, workers, drivers, flight attendants, and many other unsung heroes all stepped forward to make it a reality. They considered it their duty. Galvanized, the entire nation worked to focus its industrial strength, technical expertise, and goodwill on building this desperately needed hospital. A project of this magnitude has never been done in such a short time. It is a testament to the skill and dedication of everyone involved that such an advanced hospital could be built and fully equipped in just 10 days. Built during a dark and difficult time, Huashen Hospital stands as an inspiration for the whole country.